The sun was sinking behind the craggy ridges of Gallows Peak, casting long, dark shadows over the rocky estate that stood on its edge like some ancient, crumbling sentinel. The winds howled through the twisted trees that clung to the mountain, as if the earth itself were trying to tear them from their roots. It was in this forsaken place that I, Adrian Walsingham, found myself drawn by an unknown compulsion to confront the demons of my lineage and learn the truth of the dark curse that had haunted my family for generations. For years, I had heard whispers of this curse, how the Walsingham bloodline had been condemned since the days of my great-great-grandfather, who had struck a deal with a mysterious figure said to reside in the depths of Gallows Peak. It was a pact made in desperation, one that promised power and wealth in exchange for an unspeakable price. My ancestors had paid that price, one by one, until none but I remained to carry the weight of the family's grim inheritance. And now, after much searching, I had come to the estate that stood like a monument to all that had gone wrong. The house was a Gothic ruin, a desolate manor, once magnificent, but now consumed by age and decay. It was said to have been built by the first Walsingham patriarch centuries ago, and it had stood defiant against time, its stone walls still echoing with the memories of forgotten horrors. Yet it was not the house itself that drew me. It was the woman who dwelled there, the last of the cursed bloodline, the one they called the Witch of Gallows Peak. Her name was Sybil Walsingham, an ancient and twisted soul who, according to the villagers, had long since ceased to age. They spoke of her in hushed tones, of her dark arts and sinister ways, of how she had outlived all her kin and survived countless generations. Some said she was a mere relic of her family's twisted history, others that she was the very one responsible for the curse that had clung to the Walsinghams for so long. I had resolved to confront her. The burden of my family's past was too great to ignore. The curse that had ravaged our line had to be broken, and I believed that she, the witch, held the key. I arrived at the crumbling gate of the estate as dusk settled, my heart heavy with both dread and determination. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay as I made my way toward the house, my footsteps echoing through the silence that enveloped the mountain. The door to the manor creaked open, as if it had not been touched in years. Inside, the house was cold and musty, its once grand halls now filled with shadows that seemed to stretch and writhe in the dim light. The flicker of candlelight guided my way as I ventured deeper into the manor, my every step seeming to stir something beneath the floorboards, something old, something restless. At last I came upon her. She sat in a chair by a crackling fire, her hunched form draped in dark, tattered robes. Her face, though shrouded in shadow, was gaunt, her skin pale as wax. Her eyes, though clouded with age, held a strange glint, an unnatural gleam that spoke of powers far beyond my understanding. "You are Adrian Walsingham," she croaked, her voice as dry as the wind that howled outside. "I have been expecting you." I shivered, though I did not dare show my unease. "I have come to seek your help," I said. "The curse of my bloodline. It must be lifted." The witch studied me for a long moment, her eyes piercing through me like daggers. "The curse can be lifted," she said slowly, "but it will not come without cost. You must venture beneath this house into the catacombs that lie forgotten. There you will confront the darkness that binds your family to this fate." Her words sent a chill through my veins. Beneath the house, in the very bowels of the earth, lay the source of the curse, a place that had been sealed away for centuries. And yet something in her tone, something in her eyes, made me question whether I was truly prepared for the horrors that awaited me. "What lies within?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to remain calm. The witch's lips curled into a twisted smile. "That, dear Adrian, is for you to discover. But beware, for the catacombs are not what they seem. They are alive with the memories of those who came before you, and not all who enter are able to return." She paused, her gaze darkening. "There is a price to be paid for such knowledge. You must be willing to face your deepest fears, for the horrors of the past are not merely echoes. They are waiting for you." Despite my growing trepidation, I resolved to face whatever lay ahead. I had come too far, and my family's curse could not be ignored any longer. "I will go," I said, my voice steady. The witch nodded, rising from her chair with unnatural grace. "Then come, I will show you the way." We descended into the depths of the manor, the air growing colder with each step, until we reached a massive stone door, its surface etched with strange symbols and runes that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The witch muttered an incantation under her breath, and the door groaned open with an ominous creak. The catacombs stretched before me, a labyrinth of dark passageways, each one more oppressive than the last. The scent of mildew and ancient decay filled the air, and the faint sound of whispers seemed to drift from the shadows, as if the very stones themselves were alive with memories. As I ventured deeper into the catacombs, I began to see the shadows of those who had come before me. Their twisted faces emerged from the walls, their eyes wide with terror, their mouths open in silent screams. They reached for me, as though begging for release from the darkness that had bound them. It was then that I realized the truth. The curse had never been a curse at all. It had been a trap set by the witch herself. The horrors that awaited me in the depths were not the product of some ancient pact. They were the result of Sybil Walsingham's dark magic. She had bound her family to the mountain, trapping them in these catacombs, feeding off their fear and despair. As I turned to flee, I saw her standing at the entrance, her eyes glowing with a malevolent light. "You cannot escape," she whispered, her voice filled with cold triumph. "The curse has always been mine to control." And then the darkness swallowed me whole.